This is your foundation. How to successfully grow your wedding business. Weddings Made Simple.
Next, let's tackle bit depth. Now, a definition of bit depth is the numerical amount of color shades available to a camera. So if you've heard of 8-bit color depth, that essentially means you have 256 shades of red, 256 shades of green, and 256 shades of blue to pull from. Altogether, this leads to about 16.7 million shades of color to work with. Sounds great, right? Now compare this with 10-bit, which has 1,024 shades of red, green, and blue per channel. Now this leads to about over 1 billion colors, actually.
A lot.
Compare that with 12-bit, which has 4,096 colors per channel, which is over 68 billion total.
I can't even count that high.
Yeah, numbers this big pretty much lose their meaning. So why don't I just jump on here and show you what it actually looks like. Here we have an 8-bit image that actually Caleb recorded on an A7S II. And I kind of found one that was very similar that was filmed with the Blackmagic Pocket 6K, and I chose it because we're able to see the gradient in the sky here. Now, if I come in here into the color page, and I just do kind of an extreme color curve on this, let me shut this off so you can see more. Let's look at the gradation in the sky. This is where you can see 8-bit breaking apart. Look at that. Dang it, Caleb. What the heck?
Sorry. I didn't have 10-bit back then. That was affordable.
So now we're really starting to see the banding that's happening in the sky. This is where 8-bit really starts to break down. Now let's compare that with our 10-bit clip. And let's apply that same grade. But look at the sky there.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's just beautiful. Look at that. The
gorgeous.
gradation there in the scopes. This is the beauty and the power of 10-bit and 12-bit.
So it's important to note too, so if we go back to the 8-bit image right there, you see that gradient and how it looks, you can see the banding. So the banding is going to be the spacing between each gradient there. That is not allowing the other colors to be put into, because the information is not there. So this is actually a real good visual of what it means to have more colors. So with 8-bit, with your 256 colors per channel, or 1,024 colors in your 10-bit, what that means is there is colors in between, a lot more color variations, a lot more shades in between to fill in between the gradients, to eliminate that banding. More information, more colors, less banding when you exercise that image more in post.
Yeah, exactly. And here's another example right here from a 10-bit image where, as Caleb was saying, there's so many more colors to fill in this gradation here. As opposed to this other 8-bit clip, if we zoom up here to the top, we'll see that harsh banding again.
This is also why it's very important when you shoot on 8-bit systems to try to nail your exposure a lot more. You want to bake in a lot more of what you're doing. So this is one of the better things about higher bit depth is you can see a real world visualization of why you don't have to be as precise when you're filming. You can be a little bit less baked in and know that later you can actually fix it in post. We say that, we joke about it, but in 8-bit depth, it's more of a sad realization that you can't after you joke about it and you get back to the computer editing.
It's true. It's true. Bit depth adds another layer of sharpness and realism to your footage that even resolution can't do by itself. I'd often actually rather have a 1080p 10-bit clip over a 4K 8-bit clip.
Just to give a side note as well, what if all you have is an 8-bit clip? What if you're in a situation where you realize, man, I overexposed that. I did something that was too baked in for me to adjust later in a way that is desirable. Well, one of the things you can do is add a little bit of noise, actually. This is actually what they do in a lot of pro situations, is when you have situations where there is too much banding in between, a little bit of noise actually smooths that out. And the technicality of that is called dithering.
Now, obviously, the higher your bit depth, the more sizable your footage is going to be. So definitely keep that in mind.
Always a give and take.
Yeah, so this matters to digital color imaging because we're trying to teach you how to best manipulate your footage without breaking anything. So you can push and pull your image a lot farther when you have higher bit depth. And as I mentioned earlier, it also creates a much more realistic shot. Also, it's going to determine your export deliverable. So if you're shooting and you're editing in 12-bit, you want to make sure that you pick an export deliverable codec that can handle that. We'll talk more about that later on.